Hello, I want to welcome everyone to the Power of Our Story. We are a place of safety for our protectors to process the journey together with others that get it. We do this by storytelling as our stories connect us. Please don't spend years suffering in silence. You can reach out to us at the Power of Our Story and meet our amazing community that cares about you and understands. Today, we have a different kind of guest on. I'm really excited to have this person, which is Jason Pieratt, and he is the president of the Children's Relief International. And just a little bit about Jason. As a Midwest kid, I grew up in Iowa and Brazil. After earning a BS in education, Wayne State College, I taught fifth grade for 6 years in San Antonio, Texas. While teaching, I earned a master's in education and a Principalship Certification. And in 2005, I said yes to a call to care for the Lord's weakest children and the missionary vocation. I married my wonderful wife, Lindy, in 2006, and soon after moved to Rockwall, Texas, to attend Dallas Theological Seminary. As I pursued a master's in cross-cultural ministry, Lindy and I raised missionary support to join Children's Relief International, and I served as an international program developer. Years later, I became CRI's vice president. In 2018, I completed my doctorate in Intercultural Studies at Western Seminary. In the spring of 2020, I accepted the role of CRI's president. CRI's mission is to share the light of Christ with the poor of our time in word and deed. We work among the bottom billion who make $2 or less a day. Our reach currently spans 8 countries via 11 partnerships and provides care and hope to orphans, refugees, widows, and the poor within our reach. Lindy and I have 3 children, Keller, 13, Cannon, 11, and Merritt, 8. They are awesome. We are all big sports fans, Aggies and Cornhuskers, and aren't shy about our love for popcorn. I love it. Before I hand it over to you, Jason, I just want to say the reason also that I'm so excited to be able to hear your story and hear more about CRI is the more that I've been in this arena with our protectors, veterans, law enforcement, firefighters, dispatchers, all the first responders, there's such a protective heart. And a lot of times when they move out of that arena, when they retire, transition, there's this huge need to serve. And sometimes it's really hard to find that purpose and the meaning like they did have. And so I see this whole world that I never saw before in really getting to know so many of the people that have been on the front line. And I thought, my husband and I love your organization and what you're doing. And I thought, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be amazing to have, our protectors to go in and help and be role models and, see who God brings together in this effort. So Jason, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the warm introduction and the invitation to speak with y'all today. I'm coming to you from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. We're from Texas, but I'm up here visiting some supporters and some of my staff that live here, and I'm actually in a safe room kind of situation. So it's kind of a fun place to talk to everybody. And again, thank you for the invitation. Thank you. The Children's Relief International, like we said, our mission is to share the light of Christ with the poor of our time in word and deed, and we do it through partnerships with those that live in the places where the poor live. And the poor we define as the bottom billion. The bottom billion, depending on who you're reading, can be anywhere from 980 million to 1.3 billion people living off $1.90. I think they just bumped it up to $2.15 a day. So it's very, very deep poverty. It's kind of hard to get your mind around. I think I spent $3.20 on a pack of gum on the way up here, which is somebody's full day salary. So the places we work, we like to call hill country. Hill country is in reference to the Joshua 14:12 in the Bible, where Caleb's standing on the river of Jordan, and 40 years earlier the Lord had asked him and 12 others to go in and spy on the land, and they could take it. They're supposed to figure it out and come back and figure out what to do, and instead they had to go to walk the desert for 40 years. But 40 years later, Caleb's standing there again, and he says, Lord, you asked me to do this before, and I'm ready now. I'm ready. Me and my family will take on the hill country where the giants live. The giants, which had scared them away 40 years earlier. He was now ready with his family to go in there and face them. So when I think about where we work, I think about hill country and the giants that live there. And my own story, telling a little bit of my own story, the first time I faced a giant in deep poverty was in 2002. I was 22 years old. My parents, I'm the fortunate person to be able to work with my parents in service and ministry. They started Children's Relief International. In 2002, I had no interest in being a missionary with Children's Relief International. I was a teacher and an educator, but I'd heard about the children that they were helping in Mozambique. And I love kids. I'm an educator. I love kids. And so I want to go to Mozambique and I'm going to serve on this team. The second day I was on that trip, we walked into a local hospital, if you want to call it that. And it was some of the most shocking conditions I'd ever seen. No beds, open wounds, smells, all the things, just a very, very difficult thing to watch. And I was with our partner, Noemia, who's there all the time. So she was just, let's go. And the team's kind of taking it all in. And we're going to go see what we're going to be serving, because we're going to serve soup in this place, in this hospital, while we're on the team, just to kind of help love on the people and care for them. So we turn a corner, walking down the hall, just happened to walk in the first opening door of a room. And there is a lady who had just begun to wail, and just the most difficult kind of situation to walk in, wailing and just hurting. And she's saying, "Não tem sunga," which means, in my broken Portuguese, it doesn't have blood. There's no blood. And we're, what is going on? And I'm shocked. And she turns around and she's holding this baby. It's her baby, and her baby is taunt with malnutrition, not just unlike anything I'd seen at the time. And Noemia sees it, and she's like, "Oh, we got to get the nurse." And she's running around. And then right there, before we could do anything, the baby died. It died there right in front of us. And I was just kicked in the teeth. Hill country, giants of the hill country had just laid me low as a young man. I did not know what to do. I wasn't quite sure. I'm thinking, where in the world am I? Like, this is not what I came to do. I came to help with children and play and share the love of God and all these things. And I'm witnessing this horrible, horrible condition and situation. And I didn't know how I was going to get back up in that experience. And, when you fly overseas, you're not leaving the same day you arrive. So we stayed and we served. And thankfully we did that, because the next day we showed up again to the hospital. And that day we served warm soup. And we put our hands on the sick and the dying and the children, and we prayed for them and we fed them. And while we couldn't necessarily speak the language real well with them, they knew we were there and present. And you could see just a little bit of hope, a little bit of light in their faces. And later on that day, we went to the preschool that CRI had just started to help. First preschool in the village, first preschool in that part of the country ever. And you're hearing these teachers are excited. They're like, these kids are going to learn something their parents never learned at this age. And we're playing games with them, and we're eating cookies, and we're singing songs. And you could see just a little bit of light and a little bit of hope. And then at the end of the day, we'd go to the church and we'd work with the youth there, the people closer to my age at the time. And they'd talk about how they're hoping to finish high school. And I knew CRI was helping to fund some of those school fees that were just impossible for these kids to pay, their families to pay. But we were able just to do a little bit to keep them going, so that they might be the first ones in their families to ever graduate high school. That's little that was. And I knew there was a little bit of hope. And that experience, while it wasn't as concrete at 22, today I understand that was when the giants kick you down and knock you down. One of the only ways you can get back up is when you witness the love of God at work in word and deed in the lives of the poor. There actually is an opportunity to see hope. We actually are going to make a difference, while there's so much wrong with the reality of deep poverty. It is possible to make a change. It is possible to make a change. So in that experience, for my story, I came home and I couldn't stop thinking about that baby. I wasn't going to be a missionary, and I wasn't going to raise support. And I had a certain kind of wife in mind, and I had a certain kind of career in mind. But the Lord just kept working on me and working on me. And eventually, I won't go into the whole story, but I had an undeniable, somewhat supernatural experience where I was told, you need to choose. You either know that you know about these babies and these children and you're going to help them with your life, or you're not, but you know that you're not. You know that you're not. The lukewarm, the concept of lukewarm, you're either lukewarm. If you say no, you can say no, but you need to know that I know that you know, and you know too, that there's babies you can help, and you have the skill set and you have the passion. I've given you the tools and the ability to care for these babies. Go do it, or don't. But don't try to block the line and say you're just going to go in the summers. Don't try to walk the line. So, and in that moment, there was an enormous amount of grace from God in my life, an enormous amount of mercy fell over me when I finally said yes. Okay, I'll do it, and I quit my job and went to. In the little introduction, I shared all the things. I didn't know you were going to read that out loud, but I shared all the things I've done to work hard to learn the trade of caring for the poor of our time in word and deed around the world in Hill Country. So the rest of that story, then, I've been serving in. It's almost 22 years later, we're still serving hot soup in that hospital all these years later. Our strategy is to partner with the people, get behind their vision, and stay for the long haul. We live in the hills with the giants. We don't just go in and come home. We find partners, we come together in like a living bridge, and we live there. So 22 years later, this year, we're continuing to serve soup. We have a baby nutrition program now that we run. And while I watched a young child pass away in front of me in 2002, in 2022, we have 202 babies in our baby nutrition program that were cared for in 22, and 56 of them graduated, which means they're out, they're safe, they're going to live for sure. And I think we had just a few pass away. So that's a really cool, wonderful part of my story, my personal story, that I get to be part of work that can change lives that way and help that way. It's really, I get to tell people thank you, which I had two words: Hill Country and gratitude. Part of my job now is to thank the heroes, thank the protectors, thank the folks that choose to remember and care just a little bit, because a little bit goes a long way. So I was going to share another little story, if that's okay. I just keep going here. What we learned in Mozambique about the giants and how they can kick you in the teeth and lay you low, and everything from corruption, all the things that you hear about in the West about poverty and corruption and the lack of ambition and all those criticisms, they're all real. They're all in part, there's part good reason to have those things. But they shouldn't stop us from trying necessarily to help. And when we're part of the land and we've been there with them, we've learned how to navigate it. So we've taken the things we learned in Mozambique and moved to other parts of the world where it's deep poverty, and every place is a little bit different. Every giant, you would think they're all the same, but they're not. They're not. They're very different. And if 2002 kicked me in the teeth and laid me low, it'd been a minute. And in 2018, we went to visit we started working amongst the South Sudanese refugees in northern Uganda. And I had not been to a refugee camp before. And we've been helping partner with Martin Coco, who's a refugee himself, who moved his family back right real close to the camp and is serving the refugees there, the children, the widows, the orphans, building homes there. We have a children's tutoring center. We do school fees, emergency feeding programs. We started a microfinance. So we're kind of really in there, embedded since 2018. Now that's kind of picked up. But in 2018, it was still rather new. And I had gone in to visit and to meet the children that were in the program and meet some of these widows and some of the Green Door recipients and all that. And when a young lady named Mary gave me this letter when I was leaving, and I didn't get a chance to read it till I got into the car. And this letter does a nice job of capturing one of the giants that live in the refugee camp, but it also does a nice job of capturing the hope that comes when God's people, or when people choose to remember the poor. When you choose to remember the children, not just in your neighborhood, but around the world that might need a little bit of help, what can happen? How can they stand up? This letter. So I'm going to read it. I might get a little emotional. That's okay. I'll try not to get emotional. I always do. But this is my job. This is what I'm supposed to do. So I'm going to do it. All right. It says, Dear Dr. Jason and Mr. Braxton, hi there. Hope you're fine. Back to me. So that's just a little context. This is Mary. She's 18 years old. She was a junior in high school at the time, and she's part of our tutoring program. So start over there. Hi there. Hope you're fine. Back to me. Somehow I'm fine. I woke up this morning not feeling well and would like first to apologize to you for not going to tell you this story in person. But it's going to be fine, and I just write below, and I hope that you'll receive it and read it physically. I'm really happy for your coming, and I thank you so much for coming here to the camp. Now, one time, when a 7-year-old was attacked on her way to school, coming back from home, this little girl always walks with her friends, but there was a day where they were going back home, and on their way, they came to the bad, evil people, and they chased her. And the 7-year-old girl was too small to run away quickly, so the friends left her behind, and she was caught by those bad people, and she was taken to their home. This little girl was now prepared for their meal. The parents of the girl waited, hoping their daughter would come home, but she didn't. And then the bad people took the bones of the little girl and placed them near one of the gardens after eating her. The people searched, and they found the bag and the uniform and her cup, plus the bones at the basin of the garden, and the people had nothing to do. The school was called Victorious in Cluster D near the Boduda Hills, which is very far. This place is extremely dangerous. Anyone who passes that way fears, whether that person is big or small, young or old. Everyone gets scared, and that's in that place. This was due to the farness of the school, 1 kilometer away from home. And the schools do not even have good teaching. Therefore, I would like you to pass the story on. To other people, like Miss Melody and Dr. Allen. Well, I don't have much to say. Thank you so much for your help, because of some of the children who are studying in that school are now taken in by the Children of Light Ministry, our ministry. And we are the youth, and we are very thankful for you. We don't even know what we can do to say thank you, but the Heavenly Father will pay you back. Thank you, thank you. Actually, this story of this little girl happened this year in 2017 of March, first term. This story was witnessed by people, including the captain, the commander of the camp. My dear brothers, Jason and Braxton, there's a proverb that says, no man is an island. You can't live completely independent, meaning everyone needs help from somebody. We needed help from you, and you have helped us in so many ways. And I'm sure soon you will also fulfilled. You will also fulfill the open way in Jesus' mighty name. Lord bless you and your families together, keep you safe during your return to America. God bless you 1,000 times 1,000. Amen. I don't know what to say, but to say thank you so much. So again, it's a little long, and it's a very thick story. You see the giant. A giant that lives in the refugee camps of the world, and this one in particular is a giant that is allowed to eat children. They eat 7-year-old girls. It's a giant that steals the peace of an 18-year-old who clearly needed to share this story with somebody. She needed to get it off her chest. She needed not just to get it off her chest. She wanted you to know this story. She wanted you to know that there's little Janes out there that are walking alone in these villages, and they need help. And they're people, they're real, right? But she doesn't stop. This is what's really amazing about this letter to me. This is why I'm sharing it here today. She does not stop and say, this is a horrible place where giants kill children. Help me. I don't know what to do. I'm desperate. I'm alone. I don't know what to do. She tells the story. She needs to tell you the story. And then she says, thank you. She has gratitude. Amazing. This little girl, this little 18, can knock down by a giant like that and stand up and say, no, I'm going to be okay. Why am I going to be okay? I am not alone. I am not alone. I know that I'm not alone. Thank you. Yeah, I needed help. We needed help. And Martin Coco, our partner who's there all the time, and CRI in a larger way, has chosen to remember these children, has chosen to stand with these children. And she felt it. She felt it enough to say thank you for it, which is just humbling to the core. Humbling to the core. People like Sarah, like you, people out there in this, that you'll never meet these children, but you help them. And they're thankful for it. They're extremely thankful for it. And in this case of this letter, she doesn't stop with just saying thankful. She goes on to say, how does she say it? Fulfill the open way. I am trusting that soon you will continue to fulfill the open way. What does that mean? Like, what does that mean? I think she believes that the good people of the West, that the Christians for sure, and that others who are kind and generous, remember the poor, are going to continue to help. She believes it in her core, so much so that she thinks we're going to continue. We're going to continue to fulfill the open way. What is the open way? The open way is the fact that we live in a day and a time where you can get to a country and meet Mary within a day and a half, hold her hand, tell her you love her, tell her you care about her, which will change her life in a way that, I mean, not just you, but it's contemporaneous. God sees them all at the same time, and we can get out. There's more opportunity than ever before to fulfill the open way of caring for the world's weakest children and the Lord's weakest children. We can do it. And this child, after experiencing that, believes we can do it. Now, if that doesn't get you motivated to want to help babies and children, and talking to a bunch of protectors, you guys know what I'm feeling here. You know it. If you're someone who feels compelled by the Lord or compelled by your sense of responsibility to your fellow man, you know what it feels like to know I want to help and we can do something about this. And it takes the courage to remember. It takes the courage to be willing to walk into hill country and know there are giants that might lay you low in the experiences or whatever it might be to keep you from doing it, and going ahead and doing it, not talking yourself out of it, those kind of things. So I guess my take, that's part of my story, and I have the responsibility to share Mary's story with people. And this is just one of the stories from the many places we work around the world, and we're just one organization doing good work. And if I have a message or an encouragement to the folks out there, we will see or I need your help. We love your help. But other organizations need your help too. And my hope is that you will choose to remember the poor and help as you can, because you can't reduce the light that will penetrate if you get behind an organization or people that are going in and not just giving something or not just saying something, but are saying things and doing things amongst this population, amongst the bottom billion, saying and doing. In our case, sharing the gospel, sharing that God loves you at the same time that we're giving them a cup of warm soup as they're sitting there wondering what's next for them. And it changes them. It penetrates the darkness. It penetrates it. And it cuts through, the light cuts through it. Whereas if you just talk about words, they'll listen, but they're hungry. And if you just talk about the hunger and give them food, and you don't address the pain, and you don't let them tell their story, she needed to tell her story. She was able to do that, right? It will bounce. It'll bounce. But when you bring them together, when you have relationships, speak words and deeds and bring them together, it can penetrate the darkness. And then, there's a lot of pain and there's a lot of this going on around the world. And we don't claim to, we're doing our part. We're doing as much as we know how and we can. And we're very thankful for it, but we're also realistic in that pursuit. So I'm way off notes, what kind of went there, but that's a bit of my story, and I'm thankful for it. So
that was wonderful. I really appreciate you sharing. I'm so touched, so moved by Mary's story, and to be reminded, like you said, the bottom billion. Oh my gosh, the bottom billion. That, Jason, just thank you so much for that heartfelt sharing, and for everything that you're doing is amazing. I think John and I were talking, and I think one thing that we appreciate so much about what you do is that you really do partner with the people that are already there doing things. They already know the culture, they're part of it, they understand it, and you go there just to empower them with what they need. And like you said, some live there who are really part of it. And I love what you said too, that it's long term.
Yeah,
like they are. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, that's true. The way all this started was my parents were in Brazil and they were trying to help street kids, and the street children were so far away, culturally, just emotionally, relationally, that whatever they tried bounced. It bounced. And then they met a kid who had grown up in the streets who wanted to help. He was a little older and got a little education. He wanted to help. So dad's like, hey, how would you do this? What do you want? What would you do? And then they started doing it, and it started helping, and it started changing lives. And then dad kind of handed that over to João over time, and then moved home and started Children's Relief International. So that it's true. What we like to say, it's like a living bridge. There's a part of India, Meghalaya, where the world's only maybe living bridges exist. It's the wettest part of the world, and so no man-made structure can withstand the deluge of the rain in this part of the world. And so these people have learned how to coax vines together to create living bridges that will withstand the rain every year. And so grandpa teaches the daughter who teaches her daughter, and it's a generational thing. There's a nice little National Geographic thing on this, and it's a living bridge, and it's the only thing that can actually work to navigate that land. That's how I understand partnership. It isn't just that we're resourcing these people. It's also that they have a relation. They're listening to us and taking our knowledge and our education and the things that we know and learning, and we're learning from them. And then we come together and we grow this cross-cultural living bridge, because we're asking the Western people in church to join us in caring for these poor. And it's so far away that it isn't just a one and done. It's a relationship, and relationships are living things. And so it's a really kind of cool way we form this living bridge of change. Without the living bridge, you can still do good things, but it becomes more transactional, and transactions are fine, but then it's limited. And for, there's always more down the road. Like you can help here, but there's always more you could help. And so why wouldn't you try where you can? It's not possible everywhere, but where you can, to form a long-term relationship, to care for them, a living bridge to care for them. And it's a lot of responsibility. Like when you say I'm going to commit for a lifetime, if I can, how much of that are you going to do? Like how much of that can you put on your plate and still take care of your own family and things like that. So, but we're daring to do it, and we found other people that are daring to do it with us that join Children's Relief International, and nobody's paying the caring for the poor is everybody who works with here has to raise their support to do it too. So you're like, I have to raise my salary for this job to care for the poor, because there just isn't at this time in our history people writing checks to say, hey, go care for the poor. So you have to do that. So it's a dual challenge, but the blessing of the work, like we call it the best job in the world. It's the hardest job in the world, but it's the best job in the world. Like the outcomes of this work is awesome. So it's worth trying to humble yourself and ask people to help, and all those things that we're told in America that you should be able to put your bootstraps on and take care of yourself. But we need to build living bridges with Americans that support us, that support the kids and all that stuff too. So that's been an interesting part of the job, to help others grab a hold of that.
It makes so much sense. I mean, I think, in our platform, it's, we talk about how we heal in community, and it's with other people. It's working together and pulling strengths together. And I think that's what resonates so much about the work that you're doing, that it really is a community effort. It's people working together with different strengths and understanding and education. And all that being said too, if people are watching this and this just really hits home, what is the process, and like, what are you looking for because there's a lot of people who are retired who are still in their 40s,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. It's a good question. And it's a little bit of a dynamic question in the sense, so we don't do just one thing. We're not just doing water wells around the world. It'd be easier if we just stuck to one thing, I think. But we've chosen to be very dynamic with following the lead of our partners. So when people want to come on board and volunteer, there's a really wide range of things they can help with. So green door construction, we build homes in the refugee camp. We build homes in Malawi. So every now and then we'll get an American who's like Joe Stefan, the guy I'm here with. He joined to help manage that, so we could take teams in to help us build these homes. Now the workers there need the money as much as we need to bring Americans over to do the work. But again, because we believe we can learn from each other, we want to find folks that can come and help us build and help us serve and do it really well together and learn from each other in that. So I think that the bigger answer is reach out to me and let me know what you're interested in. And we have lots of different ways. Short-term teams, you can go and serve and see. A lot of times I invite people who are interested, really interested in knowing what we're doing and how we're doing it, is to come with me on a trip and see it. And then you're really gonna kind of know. And we need people to sponsor children. So this Martin Coco, where we're at, over 40 children we're helping, but we have 8 sponsors. We only have 8 sponsors, but we're helping 40 kids, plus building homes, plus all that. So I know sponsorship's kind of a tried and true, and everybody hears about it, but it really, 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 really does make a difference. Mary can tell this story because she's a sponsor. She was a sponsor. So even at the bare bones, you can always come on board, sponsor somebody with CRI, and then go and meet them and give them a hug. Tell them you love them. We'll take you. Let's go. So there's that. We just had a guy in California who's interested in farming and went with us to Malawi, and now he's helping us teach with our partner, teach the village how to farm. So you may have a trade that you're like, man, this could be really good. Microfinance, sustainability, we're leaning more and more into that kind of thing. Yeah. I need people that can volunteer a little time just to bounce ideas off of them and me and that kind of stuff. So we're eager for help. And so maybe not quite as concrete as.
No, that's great. That's great. And I mean, I'd even love to hear you brainstorm a little more about, like, with all these veterans and first responders that have, different skills. I mean, even that just puts ideas. Like there's so many veterans that want to do farming. They want the piece of that. And then, to even have like a purpose like that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Definitely the, construction.
Everybody likes construction. So we're still building how to do that well. And certain, like in Uganda, they don't let you build houses to the quality that we expect. Like they actually tell us you can't buy nice material. You have to use these materials because of jealousy and things like that. So depending on the place, but Malawi has a lot of opportunity for all kinds of innovation. Very talented young couple who are eager and working, and the community's kind, and they're eager and working. So farming, that's where the farming's starting. And another way, like there's a group of refugees from Myanmar. We have a project in Myanmar, and the war kicked off almost 2 years ago now, and they had to flee across the border. So our missionary moved across the border into India, is living in India now, and a handful of basically sophomore, juniors in high school, but that's college, fled over the border to live with his family, to be educated, to learn the Bible. So we started a little Bible school for these kids, these refugees. And what we're doing now is once every 2 weeks, we get on a Zoom call and we just have a conversation with these girls to teach them English, because they need to learn English. And so we have an ESL, someone who's ESL, who's kind of volunteering to help lead that. But you could get on a call and meet these girls. Sing Sing would love to meet you. Sing Sing would try to talk your ear off in that conversation. We break into small groups. So there's that it's not very mentoring, but it would be communication. And what happens with a small organization like ours, because we're small, we're not the biggest boat in the water at all, is people bring innovation. People bring opportunity. When you're in an organization our size and you come in with your talent and your interests and you're like, hey, I want to try this, or as long as you abide in the mission, but you got to believe in the mission. We got to avoid mission drift. Some folks want to come in and do something that's completely different than what we do. But if it's on mission, let's go. So Green Door Houses came from that. Somebody came in and said, man, these houses are falling down. Can't we build them some houses? Well, why would you do that? That was 15 years ago. And we built over 300 houses now. So, yeah. So there's some ideas there,
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
I'm as much advocating for the folks that watch this to do something to help the poor. Do something to help the poor overseas, not just in your neighborhood, overseas too. And if you're not helping the poor in your neighborhood, help them too. But like it goes such a long ways. And I want your help, but I really, more than anything, want the children around the world and the widows and the orphans to know that somebody loves them. A stranger loves them and is thinking about them. That changes everything for a person. It gives hope. And you guys know that that relationship works. So I'm advocating for that as much as CRI, although we want the help. We need the help. So
that's huge. That's huge, isn't it? I mean, just knowing that somebody cares can change so much with the hope. And then when you have hope, then things can open up more. And
Yeah.
yeah.
A lot of people do the math. It's like, it's not worth $3,000 in a week of my time to go there. I'd rather just send the money. And a lot of organizations will just take your money. And we will too. But you will be changed in a way. You won't wake up. You won't. When I got on the plane in 2002, who I came back was somebody different. And I would argue most of our experience, most of the stuff that we do, people who go with us, that is to some capacity the way it feels. You've been awakened to something else. And that awakening is a good thing. It's a good thing for the world. It's a good thing for the poor. It's a good thing for you. And we don't actually do that many teams as much as we used to, but now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, man, let's go. I'm ready to go. So, yeah.
Well, Chris, what I see you unmuted. Do you have any thoughts or comments?
I'm floored at what you give, man, and your level of service. And that's what so much of this platform is service to each other. And I don't know a lot about your organization other than what you said, but you've sold me as far as trying to help you sell that the experience, sending money can help a bunch of people. But there's a phrase that I use called selfish selflessness. And a lot of times we do a lot of selfless things for selfish reasons. And sometimes that selfish reason might not even be helping yourself internally, emotionally. And, some people think that that's a bad thing. I think that it's a great thing. I can see happiness and the passion in your face by living that experience. And you kind of touched on it just a little bit about people going there and coming back forever changed. There's things that I struggle with in my life. And when I have my bad days or bad moments, there's a couple of things that I think about. Some of it being in wartime and some of it being places that I've been around the world where tough life was really tough life. Mm-hmm. Most people in this country couldn't have a clue of what rough times are. And, I've told Sarah there was a village in Afghanistan where a bunch of people died, some time before, and we went in there to try to reestablish relationships. And the kid asked me for a water bottle. I gave him a half-empty water bottle. He throws it on the ground, and I'm kind of floored. And then they start kicking around amongst these little kids, and they're laughing and giggling and playing. They were purely happy. These kids are living in mud huts. And if, I look back, if those kids can be happy in that setting, then I can be happy too. So anybody that's watching this that can relate to that and has time and something to give to your mission, I promise you too, of never being there, those kind of conditions will change you. It'll make you a better person. It'll make you feel a little bit more fulfilled. And then you can relate back to those things, looking back saying, man, my life is pretty darn good, and change your own perspective on life.
Well said. So, yeah. Thank you.
And thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. Chris is somebody that I think it really encourages a lot of the other people. You really do give a lot, Chris. I mean, just your heart and your inspiration. And I just, it's always encouraging to gather people that do have the heart to give. And I think so many people bring so many different things. And I'm excited to actually send this recording to, like I said, I have quite a few people in mind that I want to send this to, and, you never know what can happen. Do you have any more stories of different areas, like in India, kind of what some of your partners are doing?
Yeah, it'd be great. So we have a little Mighty Mouse. We call her the Mighty Mouse. She's like maybe not even 5 foot tall. Her name's Smriti. And she's been serving in the red light district of Calcutta, which is one of the largest red light districts in the world, for over 20 years. She's been working with us for almost 15 now. And her ministry is twofold. It's to the children of the prostitutes who are just running the alleys, and then also to the women. And so she has these little preschool Bible club / preschools in different slums that kind of surround the red light. The red light district, a lot of them there are rooted around the temple worship. So there's like the temple worship street, and then there's the slums that surround it where the people live. So she has these 4 Bible clubs / preschools that she's running, and she's she's just a little ball of energy running around helping these little kids, teaching. She hires young moms that have a little bit of education to do the training for the kids. And then with the women, she just does life. She hosts a Bible study. Most of them aren't Christians at all. They believe they're Hindu, but they just come in fellowship, and she'll have, some warm tea. And she's been there forever. So she knows the mom. She's like the grandma to some of these girls that are coming that are now prostitutes themselves, and caring for them and loving on them. And so one of the things we do there, we have an opportunity we call it Mud Path Rescue, where we can every now and then we'll meet a mom or a child who's an orphan, and we'll be able to get enough legal custody to place them in a home, in a boarding school outside the city, to get them out of the slum and out of the red light, so maybe these girls don't have to follow in the generational footsteps of their mom. So right now I think we have 12 children, like 2 boys, and the rest of them are girls in boarding schools right now, around the city. So that we're trying our best to hope, praying, and sometimes the kids don't want to stay. They get a little older and they want to go home. You don't have complete control, but we're able to help some, and hope, save's too strong of a word. I hesitate to say save, but love. We can love them and care for them. That's in Calcutta. Questions?
And that's the caste system there too. So the fact that you're giving them this opportunity to actually get an education is totally unheard of, isn't it? I mean, you don't leave your level of.
Yeah, that's right. It's hard to get out. It's hard to escape the level of education, if there's any at all, in the lower castes, is pretty rough. To even just get a little additional help is a big step up. So we help in Western India. We help a couple that we have been feeding nutrition in an HIV orphanage, the only HIV orphanage in the city. Is it the state, or I think it's in the city? And there's 280,000 children with HIV, and there's only one orphanage, something like that. It's just nuts what's going on there. And so this one orphanage has about 80 kids, and it was like 8 years ago now, or 7 years ago, we started just taking food to the orphanage, and in the food was a miracle. We call it Miracle Mix. It's a nutrition pack, which is enough nutrition to keep their little bodies from succumbing to HIV and the medicine and all that stuff. So while when they first showed up, children were dying every 2 months, rotation was fast. It got to where children aren't dying there anymore in this particular orphanage because we're able to provide the nutrition. So what happened? So we have a new problem now. Here's the next giant. When you're an orphan in India and you have HIV, you were kicked out at 18. No help, no government funding. No, you're just on the street. And most of these kids they're orphans. They don't have anybody. They might have a distant person. So they're on their own. So now our partners, Gus and Ronnie, are taking the kids as we can and figuring out their education level, their temperament, their capacity. Okay, you should go to vocational training and learn to be a barber. And they can actually be a barber, even though they're in the lower caste. If they get education, you can kind of escape some of this caste, because so few people in the lower caste ever get education that when you walk up, they don't necessarily associate you with that caste. So AJ is a good story. AJ was a 10-year-old when he started. So that would have been a 10 or 11-year-old when he started. He's graduated out. We've put him through 2 different vocational trainings because he didn't want to be the barber after he did it. And then we put him through business vocation. And now he has a tea shop, and it's allowed him to get married and have a family. He has a wife who's also HIV, and they come together. And people that would have been alone on the street, miserable for their entire existence, which would have been very, very short, is going to be long. And he hasn't become a Christian necessarily. Like he knows who Jesus is. He loves Jesus, but it's not. I mean, we hope that some of that happens if it can, but really, we want them to be loved and to know they have dignity and hope. So that happens. And then in southern India, that's southern on the East Coast, we have 2 children's home, a boys' home and a girls' home. Kids come from the deep forest, which is basically a reservation. I think it's 500,000 acres. Anyways, it's where all the untouchables and the tribals live, and the government's kind of set aside land for that. And there's no schools out there, no hospitals. It's just farming existence, and it's really, really rough. And these 2 brothers came together to start helping some of the pastors that were out there, and just showing up to encourage them and maybe a little help. And then they emailed my dad 15, 16 years ago, and just said, hey, man, hey, CRI, you're doing great work. God bless you. We're praying for you. Didn't ask for any money, didn't ask for any help. These two brothers, just super humble. Dad wrote him back. And Isaiah says, well, I took a couple of kids out of the forest, and they're living with me now because the moms asked for them to go to school, and I couldn't say no. And, pray for me. Dad's like, we'll pray for you. Next thing you know, he's got close to 20 kids in his house, paying for it all his own, pastor's side, all that stuff. And CRI slowly built a relationship with them. And then we were able to rent a house for him, for the kids. And now we have these two homes with 25, 30 kids now between the two, girls and boys. And those kids are graduating from high school, and we're sending them to college. And so we sent our first batch of kids to college this year after kind of progressing and learning how to do this. And what happens is a lot of these kids get taken back by their distant relatives. So they're in school, they're getting educated, they're safe, they're clean, they're in a house, not a hut. And Uncle Bob comes and says, no, you just turned 12. It's time to have you married. Little girl, you got to be married now. I got to get my dowry. And they take them out of the home.
Wow.
Piss me off. You got to get, gonna make somebody upset. Start taking my kids out of the home because of that. But you can't, what are you going to do? So you have to navigate those giants and learn. And we've learned how to do that a little bit better, help the families, that kind of stuff. So we're having more and more kids graduate out now and send them on. And one of them's what is it, tech now, a lab tech, one of our first ones. And he's gotten married, and they're like your kids, man. It's just so fun to watch them, and you're so proud of it. And thankful to be able to help do it. So, and then they also have a ministry in the forest, which is a medical ministry. We go mobile medical ministry. We put 4 nurses through nursing school now, with the agreement that they might come back to the forest where they're from and help us for 2 years in volunteering and going with the pastor, the doctor. We have a doctor that goes to these different villages where we have relationships with churches, and we set up these camps. And so these ladies come, and then they help with baby nutrition. And we have 4 more, so we now have 8 total nurses. But here's my dilemma. You want to hear how you can help? I have 4 nurses. I have enough funding to pay the $125 a month for these nurses each to live and care for their families, and also travel around and have food on the table. I now have 4 more that we had someone give a gift to. It's $4,000 to send a nurse to school for 2 years. And we got a big gift, and so we sent 4 more. But now I have to find the funding to pay for 4 more nurses every month in 2 years when they're out. How am I going to do that? How am I? And we could put them to work all day long out in the forest. Like and then the G brothers want to build a clinic out there. There's no clinics out there, and that's a whole nother challenge of financial opportunity and challenge. And they can do it. They can get it done if we can find the help. So, but it's a wonderful thing. Like, these young ladies would never, ever, ever have a chance to go to college to become a nurse, ever. And
Right.
it's like throwing a rock in, I don't know, whatever, the 1,000,001 chance kind of thing, more than that. And here we have been able to help 8 of them do that. So that's cool. And we build churches out there, and we've dug 71 water wells. One of the things we do is go into a village, and we'll just give free water, because the village will lock down the water for the people underneath them, caste system wise. So they're already all low caste, but even the low caste won't let the untouchable caste get it. So we'll build a water well in a village and say anybody can use it. Anybody can use it, and it's free. And then in that, use that as a tool to build relationship and share our faith. And then if it goes and there's a small church community, we'll build an actual church building that then is used as a community center and a building. So we've built 30 churches now. The G brothers want to do 100 water wells and 100 churches. And we're 15 years into that goal. And I think we're at 71 wells, and don't quote me, but I think it's about 41 churches now. So there's more, they do more, but that's a lot. So isn't that fun? And that's a lot,
That's
right?
really exciting.
We're a small organization I'm kind of like, man, we really just need to stick to water or something, because this is exhausting. But then you think, well, if you stop getting behind their vision for it, then you just kind of sacrifice some of your strategy that you know this strategy will face. You can stare down the giant doing it this way. You can stare it down and overcome if you'll just stay true. And even if that means feeling a little thin and exhausted sometimes. And most people wouldn't do it this way, but we're going to do it this way until I feel.
One quick last question, if I may, before I bounce off of here.
Cool.
it's clear what people can do for all these other people, and what you're doing is absolutely amazing. I can't believe the small organization you say you have, all the different routes that you're putting out there for the people that need to have some self-indulgence and, what do I get out of it type thing. What can I get out of it? You talked about for you and your family how it's changed your life and what you actually get out of it.
What do I get out of it? Yeah, for me, and some of it's a sense of obedience. I personally am supposed to do this. There's a lot of gratitude and humility and thanksgiving. Kind of what you said, like you've experienced, you've seen it. This kid's using a pop can for a soccer ball. How am I going to complain? So it gives you perspective. With serving this way and choosing to dive in just a little bit into that kind of world will give you perspective that will keep you a little humble, and you won't be so hungry. You won't be so hot for everything. You'll cool off a little bit. It's okay, man. I don't necessarily have to chase that. I don't have to have that to be happy. I can be happy right where I'm at, or maybe even off a little bit less. I can cool off here, because with Mary, we're so hot. We're so fast. We need it. We want it. We need it. And you can go into a place and say for whatever it is, $20 a month, $40 a month, I can feed a kid and I can do all these things, or I can help to change their lives in such a small way. And or provide a house. $3,000 will build a house for somebody that will change their life. Cool off, man. Like I tell my family, instead of going, we're going to not do that kind of vacation because we're going to do this kind of thing. And we're going to know there's a family living in a house. And when someday we want to go visit together as a family, we're going to visit the family and not even tell them we built their house. We're just going to go over there and say, hey, let's play some soccer with a can. Let's just see what their lives are like. So that's for my family. That's a lot of that. That's what we talk about. And it's hard for kids to, tell them to cool off. They don't understand that yet, but I'm hoping it's planting seeds. I'm hoping they grow up and have a little perspective.
And it sounds like that, man. That makes your life completely full, man. I love to see that joy and love and passion in your face about that. That's so amazing, man. That's so amazing. And I think, Sarah, you have the link on our, are you going to put that on the LinkedIn for people to be able to donate?
Oh, I will set all that up. I'll put the link for this talk, and definitely great idea, Chris. Yeah, I'll just put whatever I can, Jason, on the promo after this talk too.
Wonderful.
Yeah. You know what I was thinking too? It's amazing. Like even in the Bible, it talks about like when one person is, I can't remember the exact wording, but basically like when one person is changed like this, it can affect 1,000 generations. And I just think about the ripple effect of, okay, well, we see this. I mean, even what you're sharing is huge. But imagine the ripple effect of now these nurses and their kids and the husband that they marry and oh my gosh, the impact.
Yep.
So I see the hope that you have and Mary too, of wow, we can really do something here.
Fulfill the open way, folks. The way is open. Go fulfill it. It's good. So thank you for letting me talk and speak and be an encouragement. Hopefully it's an encouragement to you and a good, not a good challenge, a good opportunity.
Yeah. I'm so excited to actually talk to you and even hear more, about your organization and just to meet you in person, over Zoom. So I'll get all that information, your link, and, we'll get all this and I'll send you the link to this talk and just go forward from here and just, kind of get your word out, the voice out, the organization out there. And again, Chris, thank you so much for joining us too. I'm so glad that you were here today to join us on this talk. And Jason, I have a feeling we'll meet in person someday and your family and yeah, that would be wonderful.
We're very thankful for the Carroll family. Very, very thankful. We pray for you guys often. So thank you for your generosity.
Thank you. Likewise. Thank you. Thanks again. I'm going to